My name is Johan Odenkamp and I consider myself as a student of the holy science. And please note that I write holy science a little bit different than most people pronounce holy, because holy with me starts with a W and has a double L. Because holy with only an H-O-L-Y means full of holes, and the stories that the churches are presenting us are indeed full of holes, and the same is true for what the universities are trying to tell us. Stories lack essential parts and they don't even help us to see the bigger picture. So holy science for me is about the whole. The bigger the picture, the more holier it is. And it is of course about science. And science means explaining. What we find at the universities is describing. I call that journalism. Journalism is about describing the world but not explaining. So holy science is about explaining the world, and the simpler the explanation, the better it is. The more powerful it is, the better it is. Welcome, Mark. Some of my books are in English, for instance these two. This is the most recent one. It's about holy science. This one is about understanding nature. You can find them on pateo.nl, my website, as a free PDF. Okay. Let's start. This is what many books explain to us. They say everything in the universe is energy. So all is energy. But is it true? Is this energy or not? There's another paradigm that says all is matter. And that's the big distinction at the moment. Because the universities talk about the material world, the physical world. Everything has to be proven in this world, has to be measured, has to be empirically validated. So it's about the world of matter. This is a different world. Energy. I really like the allegory of the cave from Plato, because Plato's allegory helps us to understand and see the bigger picture. Plato said that our world is like an imaginary world, the same as in the Sanskrit word Maya. It seems to be real, but it's not real, it's an illusion. So this is the shadow world in the cave of Plato. It's a reflection, it's a shadow of this world that is in front of that world. So I call this world the Proto World. Proto is a Latin word meaning for or foremost. For instance, the word prototype means something that is in front of what we are producing later on. So this is the Proto World and this is the Shadow World. Maybe you've heard about the proverb, scientific proverb, as above, so below, from Hermes Trismegistus. Trismegistus means thrice great, so he was the thrice great Hermes, so to say. This is the world above and this is the world below. We are now here in the world below, and our world here below is a mirror image, is a reflection of the world above. But the world above is not perceivable with our senses. We cannot see it, we cannot hear it, we cannot taste it, we cannot smell it. It's from a different order, and that makes it a little bit difficult. You cannot empirically validate this world, because it's beyond what we can validate, it's beyond the senses. So this world seems to be objective, and this world is subjective, and that's a very important difference. The universities do not like this world because there is no solid ground for that world, because it's all based on the perceiver. What quantum physics is showing us now is that at the most elementary level, everything in the whole world is based on the perceiver. If we do an experiment and we expect a photon to be a particle, then the experiment proves that it's a particle. But when we do an experiment to show that it is in fact a wave, then the experiment proves it's a wave. So the way we approach reality is the way it's coming back to us. What we see is what we get. That's because the subjective nature of the world above. In the allegory of Plato, I find three worlds, because this is to me world number 3. This is to me world number 2. But there's a original world, a primal world, world number 1. And I call that the source world. And everything originates from the source. That's what we know from all the ancient scriptures. But what is the source? To me, the source world is about information. Because everything, the essence of everything, can be expressed as information. This world is objective, or at least it seems to be objective, but it's an illusionary world, so the objectiveness is not really true at all, but it seems to us like it is. The second world, the world in front of the, let me put this here too. This is called the veil that prevents us from seeing here. Our senses are on this side of the veil. They cannot go across, they cannot go to the world above. So this world, the other side of the veil, is in fact a more real world, but we cannot approach it with our senses. We have to go to a higher understanding or a higher inner knowing to go to that world. The first world is the world of information. That's an absolute world. And I call that the world of God. God is for me the source of everything. But God is not a man with a long beard telling you what is right and what is wrong. I think that's a very naive way to approach the idea of God, or Brahma, or Allah, or Yahweh, or any word you want to use. The Creator, the Supreme, the unmoving mover. All those words can be used to express the qualities of God. The world we perceive, this world, the shadow world, is a world with 3 dimensions. So this is the 3D world, the world with 3 dimensions: height, breadth and depth. Many people talk about 4th dimension and 5th dimension and so on. To me, that's utterly nonsense, because I have no clue what the 4th and the 5th and so on dimension means. I think it's fantasy. Holy science is about science. It's not about fantasy. It's not about something, we think it is. It has to be grounded in something, has to be solid based. So this is 3-dimensional. The world in front is in fact 2-dimensional, not 4-dimensional or 5th-dimensional like some people claim. That's not true. At least that's not true to me. But do your own research if you have another approach. And that means that the first world only has 1 dimension. And what is 1 dimension? It's a line. It's a long line. So that means that God is a line. It's a string of information. God is an information string. If you see this and you think it's blasphemy, then please do your own research, because I think it's true. But the beautiful thing about God as a 1-dimensional string is that it is coming back to its beginning. God is Ouroboros. It's the snake that bites in his own tail. So God is like this. God is the perfect circle that comes back to its beginning. The second part of this lecture I will go into deeper on this circle, because everything starts with the circle. When we look at life, how life starts, it starts with one cell, one living cell. And then that cell is split into 2 cells, and in 4, and so on. So it starts with one circle. Everything starts with one circle. That's the basic of life. This is one-dimensional. Now we get 2 dimensions. In fact, this looks 2-dimensional, but it's in fact a line that's coming back, so it's 1 dimension. But now we make it 2-dimensional, and then we get this. This is 1 dimension, and the other dimension is this. That's height. So the movement, because this is the world of energy, the movement of energy is going in a certain direction, and it's going up and it's going down, up and down. Yeah? When we, for instance, look at the daily rhythm, in the night it's dark, then we are down, and then it becomes light again. Dark again, light again, dark again, light again. We breathe in, we breathe out, in, out. The tidal waves are also the same. So everything in nature is like this. When we look at the body temperature, at around 3 o'clock in the night, we are the most coldest. The body temperature is lowest. Then it goes up until about 3 in the afternoon, and then it's highest. Those are called circadian rhythms, rhythms that follow circa a day, about a day, circadian. So that's we find everywhere. But we cannot perceive it. When we look at the day, for instance, we cannot perceive this. We can only see it becoming lighter and brighter, or more dark. So this is an abstraction, because our world is 3-dimensional. So what we see in the 3rd dimension are spirals. All natural movement is a spiral. Yeah, like a vortex. When I take my water, for instance, and I give it a little twist, then you see that there's a water spiral going down. Water is spiraling down, but at the same time, air is spiraling up. Like dervish dancers, they go around each other. They spin and spin and spin. When I was still working at the university, there was an elevator full of people, and there were students waiting to get into the elevator. Those students didn't understand that the elevator first has to be emptied before they can get in. They try to enter a full elevator. The same happens here. The water and the air have to twist around each other in order to make the air go up and the water go down. In the same way, the students and the people who are already in the elevator have to spiral around each other to make an empty, to bring the people in, out, and people out, in. If there are any questions, please ask, and we can have it more interactive on this beautiful sunny day here in France. Totally clear for everybody? Great. So let us start with God. To me, this is indeed God. God, if you write it like this, it seems very clear that this is God. So the O in the middle is a very important letter. The O represents the whole of everything. In the word whole, holy, also the O is in the middle. And I'm very fond of that letter because my last name starts with it, so it must be a very important letter. Hope you understand that's a little bit of a joke. We saw in the previous that it is in fact one-dimensional. So it is one. But at the same time it's 0. Oh, sorry. Because that was already there. So it's the 1 and the 0 at the same time. The 0 because it originates from the circle, from the 0, and it is the first dimension. There is no movement in the world of God. Walter Russell calls it the universal stillness. So there is no movement. The movement starts in the Proto World, in the second world. Then everything gets a direction. And when we look at the world of God, there are only 2 directions, 2 movements. we can go either around like this, or we can go around like this. This is clockwise, this is counterclockwise. And that's in fact the essence of everything, because we understand that there are two kinds of spins. Everything has a spin, from subatomic particles to the highest, to clusters of galaxies. Everything has a spin in the whole of universe. And the spin can be either clockwise or counterclockwise. So that's a very basic core concept of everything. This counterclockwise movement here, I call it yin. And the clockwise movement, I call it yang. So this is duality, the basic duality between yin and yang. And it can all be brought back to whether it's going clockwise or counterclockwise. When we understand the movement, then we see that the clockwise movement is going away from us. When we take and I screw this top on top of the bottle and I screw it clockwise. See, you see now a clockwise movement, and it's going on the bottle. So it's going away from you as a perceiver. When I twist it counterclockwise, it's getting loose and it's going away. So that's the basic rule. Also, once you want to uncork a bottle of wine, it's the same movement. So this is going inwards, and this is going outwards. Yin means in, and yang means out. Would have been even more clear if this was yout, then the word would be more easy to understand. But yin is in and yang is out. The in movement is positive, and the out movement is negative. Why is the in movement positive? Because when we look at our bank account, for instance, and money is coming in, then it is positive because we have more money. But when money is going out, after that we have less money, so that's negative. This doesn't mean good, and this doesn't mean bad. Those are labels we can put on it, but it's all about our perception. For instance, when I'm very thirsty and water is coming in, liquid is coming in, then to me then this is very good. But when I have to go to the bathroom very urgently and something is going out, then this becomes good. So it's all a matter of perspective. So thinking that positive is always good and negative is always not good, that's a very limited way of approaching it. For God, there is no such thing as good or bad. Those are labels that we created from our not understanding the whole picture. Everything is good or bad depending on the perspective of the perceiver. That's my thing. So there are two movements, and we can put this whole circle as a wave pattern. Oh, should be more like this. And this is the zero line in between. We can call this part yin, because it's going in, and this part is called yang, because it's going out. Oh, my writing is not that clear, I'm sorry. But there's more to this, because when we look at the zero line, this is called the zero line, then we see that it's from the first part here, it's going away from the zero line until here. So this part is going away, then it goes back to the zero line, then it goes away from the zero line again, and it goes back to the zero line. So instead of seeing only two faces, yin and yang, below the zero line and above the zero line, we can now see four faces. And this face is going away, so that is out. And the triangle pointing upwards is a male symbol. It's a symbol for yang. And the triangle pointing down, it's female, it's yin. So this is going in again, now it's going out again, and this is going in again. So now you see that there are 4 phases, and they are a little bit different because these two, they have different energy. And these are the classic symbols from alchemy, and they correspond to air, water, fire and earth. Those are the 4 basic energies. Some call it elements, but the elements are in fact the elements are in the 3-dimensional world. They are in the shadow world. These are the players, so to say, in the proto world, in the energetic world. So it's all about air, water, fire and earth. Air is 1, water is 2, fire is 3 and earth is 4. When you look at numerology, then you see that 4, the function of 4 is a square. And when you look at the Platonic solids, then the hexahedron, the cube, corresponds to the energy of earth. So earth means 4. Yeah, that's the 4th phase. Fire, when you see all ancient symbols of fire, it's always a triangle pointing upwards. So fire is 3. And the Platonic solids, the tetrahedron, represents fire. Yeah, square faces, triangle faces. Then we have water, that is corresponding to the icosahedron, has 20 phases, and numerologically that's 2. And also I put 2 points at the bottom to make it appear best. So water means 2, and then we have 1 left, and that is the octahedron with 8 phases, and that's of course pointing with 1 point to the ground. So in the 2-dimensional world, this is 1. Yeah, the Platonic solids are 3-dimensional shapes from the shadow world, but when we imagine how they would look in the 2-dimensional world, because we talk now about the 2-dimensional world, then this is the numbers they are corresponding with. So this is the order, and this is exactly the order that we find, for instance, in the Mayan calendar. It doesn't start with 1, but it starts with 4. It starts with earth. Then it goes to air, then to water, and then to fire, and then back to earth again. So it's the same order from this to this. Doesn't matter where you start in a circle. You can start in a circle here, here, here. Doesn't really matter. But in this case, it goes like this. There's a fifth energy, and in Latin it's called quinta essentia, meaning the 5th essence. These are 4 essences, but the 5th number, number 5, is in fact number 1. That's the most important one. And that one is called ether. And we find ether whenever this sine wave crosses the 0 line. So we find ether here, here and here. In between 2 male and female phases, so from here, earth, until air, goes through the 0 point, because those points are connected. Maybe I'll show them here. This is earth and this is air. So whenever it goes from earth to air, we find the 0 point in the middle. This is fire and this is water. So when it goes from fire to water, find another 0 point in the middle. And what does the 0 point represent? The ether. It represents the world of God. Some people say that energy, because we talk about life energies can also be called chi, ki, prana, frill, organ, or even other words as well. But ether is not in that group, because ether is not chi or ki or prana or frill. Ether is the substance in which chi, ki, prana or frill can move, can flow. Because these are always flowing. Heraclitus, another famous Greek, said Panta rei. It means everything flows. Nothing can ever stand still. It may appear to be standing still in a three-dimensional world, but when we look closer, then we see that it's always moving. There's always change. Heraclitus said you can never step in the same river twice, because the moment you step in for the second time, it's a different river. A lot of water has been going out and a lot of water is coming in, so the river is constantly moving, and the same is true to everything. So ether is not chi, ki, prana, frill or organ. Ether is the substance in which the other four are floating, are moving, are flowing. So ether is information, and information can be expressed in earth. That's physical information. When we write it down in a book, or we write it down in sand, or in a clay tablet, or we make a painting on the wall, that's all physical storage of information. So that's earth. We can also send it through the air with ultra long waves or short waves or whatever waves. The air at this moment is filled with information. When we have a receiver and we tune it to the right frequency, then we get all kinds of music or talk shows or whatever. So the air is full with information. So there's information stored in the air. This is very sustainable because there are still paintings from thousands and thousands of years ago that we can still read. But if you don't take the information out of the air right now, it's gone. Yeah, it's very dynamic. We can also store information in water, the third one. Or, yeah, here's the second one, but water is the third in this list. And water is, has magnetic qualities. The work of Masaru Emoto shows that water has memory, and that memory is related to the magnetic qualities of water. We stored information in a magnetic way. For instance, we created a cassette tape where we were able to copy the music from the air onto the cassette tape, and then we could replay the music as long as our cassette was still functioning. But the good thing about magnetic information storage is that it can easily be changed. When you didn't like the song anymore, you just copied another song on top of the same magnetic stream, and the song was gone and the new song was there. And the same is true for water. When I spiral it, seen from the 0 point in a counterclockwise direction, like this, then I'm removing all the information that was stored in the water. What I'm doing now is removing information. I make it blank, so to say. That's what I do it when I rotate it in the male way. Now I rotate it in the female way, the other way around. And now I can put any information here, like gratitude or love, anything. Now I put this kind of information in this water, and the moment I drink this water filled with the information of love or gratitude, then my body comes full with love and gratitude, because all the water in my body, about 70%, communicates with this water. It's like you have a party at home and there's somebody coming with a really bad temper, really bad humor, and he's spoiling the whole party because he's really negative. That's what you drink when you have this water. But when the party is totally boring and somebody comes in with a really good vibe, with high quality energy, then suddenly the party becomes alive too. That is the quality of water. That is the containment of the information, so to say. So that's information stored in a waterway. Very important to understand that. Magnetic qualities. And there's a last way of storing it, and that's in a photoelectric way with fire. And that's the compact disc or the memory stick, or the hard drives from our computers. That's all using fire to store information. So again, ether is information, and ether can be stored in a physical way, in the air, in a magnetic way, and in a photoelectric way. And whenever it crosses the 0 point, it creates the moment of receiving information. Yeah, whenever the water is spiraling through this 0 point here in the middle, this is the moment here, exactly in the middle, where you can put the information in. You cannot see it in a three-dimensional world. You cannot, with a microscope, see what's going on, because it's not in this world. It's beyond our senses. but this is in fact the place where it happens. The spiraling in the central point, in the 0 point, in the null point. Maybe you know from ancient times that we had carriages going through the city. Horse in front, a horseman on the, how do you call it, in front of the carriage, and the passenger inside. And of course the carriage. Those are 4 levels, because the level of the carriage, carrying a person, that's the physical world. That's Earth. So Earth is the carriage. In front of the carriage we find the horse. The horse is fire. Horse has firepower. Horse is driving the carriage. So the horse is fire. And that's what you see when a horse can be full of fire and he wants to go. So the horse is pulling the carriage. Then we have the couchman sitting on top of the carriage. And the couchman represents water. And the water is steering the horse, is guiding the horse. Water is guiding that. And on top of that we find the passenger. And the passenger is air, is information, is thinking. Because this is thinking, this is feeling, this is instinct, and these are our physical senses, our physical body. Yeah, seeing, hearing, that's all physical. So the passenger is telling the couchman where he wants to go or where she wants to go. Then the couchman is guiding the horse so that the horse is going in the right direction, and the horse is pulling the carriage. Those are the 4 levels. Can you see the picture in front of you? So that means that air is steering water, water is steering fire, fire is steering earth. That's the layer. And that's a different ordering than in the Mayan calendar, because the Mayan calendar goes 4, 1, 2, 3, but now we saw 4, 3, 2, 1. So the Mayan calendar, you can say, is a movement with the energies like this. It's a counterclockwise movement, it's a yang movement, but this movement we now see is a yin movement. It's going the other way around, 4, 3, 2, 1, instead of 4, 1, 2, 3. Hope it's not too abstract that everybody can still follow me a little bit. I'm fond of numbers because numbers to me are the language of God. So if you understand the numbers, then you understand the language of God, and then the whole of reality becomes meaningful. It's now 2013 and many people talked about the end of the Mayan calendar in 2012. But the end of the Mayan calendar, that calendar they talked about, was only one calendar, was this calendar. Because when you look at the temple of Kukulkan in Chichen Itza in the Yucatan, east of Mexico, then you find that that temple has exactly 9 levels. These are the 9 levels. And the ending of the Mayan calendar was the ending of this calendar, the 6th calendar. Each calendar layer consists of 13 steps, 13 tones of the Mayan, of the creational wave. And those 13 they are like this. Let me see. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. Sorry? 14. Ja, dat gaat niet helemaal goed, hè? They are a bit like this. No, it's correct. It's correct. How do we do it? In fact, what we see here is a trinity. 1 wave, 2 waves, 3 waves. And the ordering of the energy is again air, water, fire, earth. Oh no, sorry, it starts now with earth. I'm a little getting confused now. I'm making a mistake somewhere, but it doesn't really matter. For the idea, there are 3 full waves. This is the first one, this is the second one, and this is the third one. So at 12, the trinity of 3 waves is fully complete, and the 13th is just the first one of the second one. 13 and 1 are energetically exactly the same, but 13 is at a higher level. It's the same as in an octave. It's do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, si, do, as I explained Monday. And the second do is the same as the first do, but the frequency is twice as high. So it's the same. So there are always 13 phases within each calendar system. This calendar system was very important because it had 13 times 144,000 days, natural days. And when you count these days times 13, you get a period of roughly 5,125 years. So the big question was, when did this calendar system start? And according to our understanding, it started 3,114 years before our common era. And when you add up then 13 times 144 days, then you end up in 2012. So that was the big fuss about, because this layer ends at 2012. But not only this layer ends at 2012, all the layers end at the same time. They're all counting backwards to a point 0 in time. And when that point 0 in time was a little bit debate about it. Most people talked about December 21, or some said December 23, 2012. Carl Kalleman, a scientist who inspired me a lot, talked about October 28, 2011. But I came up finally, after doing my own research, July 14 of last year. We're now in France, and this is already a holiday, was already a holiday for long, 14 juillet. But to me that was the correct ending date. Doesn't really matter because it's all in the past, and that means that this whole pyramid has been created. It was already there in the east of Mexico, but now it's also in the energetic world completed. That's at least my interpretation. At the lowest level, we find existence, and everything that exists belongs to this pyramid. In my work I show that this pyramid can be explained in at least 3 different ways. In a historical way, showing what has happened on this planet, put it in a timeline and match it with the 9 layers, and then make sure that every occurrence, every event is at the right place, and then you see that this actually helps us to explain why everything came into existence. The second one is the psychological one. It's about consciousness, because I see that there are 9 levels of consciousness, and each human being can be at this lowest level, but can also reach the highest level, depending on your own development. And there is also a third one, and that's the physiological way. We can look at our physiological body, and we can see those 9 levels. And what I will do now is present to you these 9 levels and explain a little bit about the history. But if you want to know more about it, then go to pateo.nl. There you find a lot of video presentations where I show all the events that happened in the past according to this rhythm. So I focus now on the physiological part and on the psychological part. And I take a little bit of water because the sun is shining good. According to the Mayans, this started 16.4 billion years ago. 16.4 billion years. Excuse me. There it is. And each day and night in this period lasts 1.26 billion years, so it's extremely long. And in this very long period of 13 times 1.26 billion years, the universe came into existence, all the planets, the central star in our solar system, everything was created, but also life on this planet. The first single cell living organisms came around, I'm not sure about the dates, but they were created in this period. You can debate whether it was natural or not natural, but I will leave that for another time. But it is in fact a fact that life on this planet came into existence in this first period. So this is the energy of Earth. Earth energy. Level 1. And then at 820 million years ago, then the second layer started to be created. And that's the layer of instinct. Everything that lives from a single cell organism has at least level 1. So this is cellular level. That's also in our physical body. We have about 50 trillion single cells in our body. 50 trillion. That's 7 billion times 7 billion. That's a huge amount. When every single human being represents the whole humanity, that's the amount we have in our body. 7 billion times 7 billion. That's our physical body. So we all have a cellular life, because this is cellular life. On top of that, we have instinct life. And all animals have that. All animals have instinct. We too. We also have instinct. When we, for instance, enter a car, then we start to do all kinds of things with our instinct. When we are stressed or whatever, then we go with our consciousness to this level. And when we put our head under the water for, let's say, 3 minutes, 4 minutes, then you can even be here with your consciousness, but at that moment, the only thing you're really interested in is O2, oxygen. Because without oxygen you will die. And none of your cells wants to die. They need oxygen to stay alive. So you need oxygen. You can be very advanced in your consciousness, or you think you are, but when you put your head long enough on the water, this is what you really want. So your consciousness is there. And the only thing you can think of then is oxygen. Second level was created, and now days were about, I think, 36 million. So we see the same ordering. 4, 3, 2, 1. But now going up like a pyramid, going higher. And it's a matter of debate whether you think a dolphin or any kind of animal can reason. But I think most people are capable of reasoning. Less and less people are actually doing it, but they are capable because of their neocortex of actually reasoning. So when we look at our physiology, we see the same ordering, because this is the level of our body cells, 50 trillion, as I said before. This is the level of our reptile brain, it's called. The brainstem and the corpus and the cerebellum, the small brains. So the brainstem, that's the oldest part of our brain, in the middle of our brain. There we find our instincts. Our instincts are coming from our brainstem. Around our brainstem we find the limbic system, and that's related to our harmonic system. And the limbic system is responsible for our feelings. And around our feelings we find the neocortex. Neo means new and cortex means brain. So that's the newest part of our brain, and that was created here. Yeah, at least human beings have a well-developed neocortex. And that's why our forehead is higher, because the top is neocortex. The problem is I'm stepping on the wire all the time, so it makes it shorter. Yeah, but I can't stand still because I have to write, so it's a little bit difficult.
You need long arms.
Or like this, yeah. So there are many questions here. First of all, where did the first single cell organisms came from? We don't have any answer. Second question, the Cambrian explosion happened here. Where did it come from? Where did all the life form come from? Where did all the plants, all the animals come from? We have no idea. Some people still believe in the Darwinian evolution theory. Well, that's not science. That's pure science fiction. It has nothing to do with science. There's no explanation how a single cell can evolve into an insect. There are no species in between found ever. So a species can never ever develop into another species. If you believe that, then you can believe all kinds of other nonsense, because it's not true. Only within species there is development possible, evolution possible, but not in between species. There's no proof for that at all. So we are being fooled. So where did all the species come from? We have no idea. Here happened nothing special, but here happened something special again, because where did the human beings come from? We have no clue. If you believe that we evolved from ape beings, then you didn't do your homework, because it's not possible. When you look at the bone structure from human beings and you compare that with ape beings have much stronger bones. Did you ever see an ape in the zoo with a mutella or with a broken arm or a broken leg? If you do so, please send me an email and I will erase my whole story. If not, there's something wrong with the story. The bones of ape beings are much stronger, and they have much more power too. When you have an ape being of 170, 1 meter 70, let's say 6 feet or something, it weighs about 200 kilogram. When you have a human being, normal weight human being, it's about 70 kilogram. When you put a female ape being in the same room as a strongest male being, and they are struggling, they are fighting, there's no doubt who will win, because the ape being is much stronger than the human being. So there are many things. When you look at the length of the arms, arm length of a monkey ape being, ape being or a human being, is different, because when I go down, you see that my arms are much shorter than my legs. All the ape beings have the same length arms and legs. How did evolution theory come up with that? Did they listen good to the story of Charles Darwin, or something wrong here? Ape beings have 24 pairs of chromosomes. Human beings have 23. Did evolution got a pair of chromosomes lost somewhere? Doesn't make any sense at all. So we were not naturally created by evolution. Something else happened. Here is a big question mark. Where did the human beings come from? Here's a big question mark. How did the Cambrian explosion happen? And here's a big question mark. Where did the single cell living organisms came from? 3 major questions current academic science is unable to answer. So maybe the story is a little bit different than we've been always told at the universities, at schools. Maybe the whole story of human history is totally different. Then we continue, because human beings are on this planet for at least 200,000 years. Some say it even goes further. But let's say it's 200,000 years, because that's what the foundings tell us. So we are in this planet for 200,000 years. And the last 100,000 years of that, we created cultures. Because cultures are based on values. A value is the core, is the foundation of a culture. And the cultures we created in this period, there is no hard evidence for that. Because all the libraries from ancient times were burnt. And a lot of very important books were hidden. For instance, under the Vatican and other places as well. So we don't know about Atlantis. We don't know about Lemuria. But I think those were the first human cultures on this planet. And they happen in this period. Because our written history starts around this time. Let's say 5,000 years ago, a little bit more. And then we started to create norms. These are the core values on which societies are created. And these are the norms that we are telling each other. Because this is the same kind of thing again. This is earth. This is fire. This is water. This is air. And the final one, I will come back to that, is ether. So this was earth. Value is grounded in the earth. So that's earth. But then we got norms. And norms, they are related to fire. I use for fire the color red. And when you play soccer, for instance, and you do something that is really not allowed, you get a red card. Red card means exit, out. When you are in a traffic and you see a red light, it means to stop. So red is the norm. You can't get across the norm. And this is the, this is the time where we created all kinds of norms. All the laws were created here. Let me put the date there. I think it's 17. It starts in 1756. Yeah, say 250 years ago. And we started to create all kinds of laws. Oh, sorry, that's the next one. Here, confusing things. The norms were created from 5,000 years ago. Yeah, we started to write things down in hieroglyphics or in cuneiform in Sumeria, and those were the norms. All the religions were created here. All the states were created here. This is the norm. This is the law. You can also say the law. And we got a group of people who wanted to be above the law. They organized themselves in such a way that they were able to actually be above the law. And if you think that I'm talking nonsense now, please read, for instance, the books of Robin de Ruiter. He's a Dutch guy, but his books are in at least 7 different languages. Spanish, English, French, I think, I'm not sure. But many languages. And he investigated the group of people who tried to control this planet. Yeah, these are also called the powers that be. I prefer to refer to them as the powers that were, because we're already above this time. But this is the layer where power was created. Power above the law. When you look, for instance, now at the multinationals, they created such a way that they are above the law. They don't have to pay taxes in the countries they work, because they can shift their money easily. When you look at the banking system, for instance the Fed, the Federal Reserve Bank, it's a private bank. It's not a government bank. They rule the show, they play the show. They are above the law. The big banks and the multinationals, they are in control. And the puppets we see in the governments, they have to do what the power wants them to do. And if not, they'll be replaced. Or they get an accident. That's how it's been done for long. If you look at the history of people who have been erased because they don't fit into the agenda of the powers that be, then you see a very drastic story. Talking about John F. Kennedy, Abraham Lincoln, Martin Luther King, John Lennon, Lady Diana, Yitzhak Rabin, Pim Fortuyn in the Netherlands, Theo van Gogh in the Netherlands. All people, and the list is longer and longer, all people who were deliberately killed because the powers that be, or the powers that were, had a different agenda. They were not fitting in that. So when you stop here with the story, it's a very sad story. Then we talk about the New World Order. People who try to make this planet into a totalitarian regime, where they control everything. Monsanto, a company like Monsanto, wants to control the whole food chain. It's at this level. The European Union. It's the wet dream from the fascist people from Nazi Germany. They cut their way now through the EU, through the European Union. But fortunately, the story doesn't end here. Because in 1999, the creation of layer number 8 started. 8 means strength. Maybe you remember what happened in Beijing. There came a couple of tanks on the major square in Beijing, and there was one man demonstrating and was standing in front of the tanks. And they moved a little bit to the side, and he also moved to the side. And then they stopped. They had to stop. They had much more strength, more power than he had, but he had strength. And because of the television cameras there, they did not dare to run over him. They could do that easily. But because of the television cameras and his willpower, his strength, they had to stop. And it was a beautiful demonstration of how strength can be much more stronger than power. And the same is true for Nelson Mandela. He wanted to change the regime in South Africa, not by violence. Mahatma Gandhi didn't use violence either, and many other people as well. They show that strength is stronger than power. If we want to beat the powers that be, the elite, the Monsantos, the Shells, the Exxons, the Dow Chemicals, and go on and go on, the pharmaceutical industry, the military industrial complex, the banking industry, did I say the pharmaceutical already? The food industry, the war industry, also on. When we want to defeat them, we cannot fight them at their own level. We need to first raise our consciousness to the level of strength, and then we can make a difference. But it is always non-violence. It's peaceful. It's coming from within. It's not forcing ourselves outside. So that's the beauty. There's something higher than power, if we raise ourselves to a higher level of consciousness. And then in 2011, we created the highest level. And I call that level the level of wholeness. Some refer to this as the level of oneness. That's a different name. But to me, oneness seems that we all are one and the same. And I don't think that's true. We are all different, we're all unique, but together we are whole. We are a full circle, so to say. And we're all different parts of that same circle. So I prefer the word wholeness to oneness. And of course, wholeness is also a reference to holy science, because it's the science of wholeness, how everything is whole by itself. So I said this is the level of the individual cells in our body. This is the level of our brainstem. This is the level of our limbic system. This is the level of our neocortex. But then we have two hemispheres. The right hemisphere is the hemisphere of the values. And the left hemisphere is the hemisphere of the norms. I mostly say with the right hemisphere we see the forest, and with the left we see the trees. But if you focus too much on the trees, you can't see the forest anymore. Our school system is only about level number 6. About the norms. Hardly anyone knows the whole picture, the bigger picture. And that is because the powers that be created through divide and conquer everything into small pieces. When you're now a university professor, you only have this piece of field you can study. And if you study a different field, then you get into trouble with the professors of that field. Divide and conquer. In universities, in medicine, everywhere. Everything has been divided into little pieces, and that's why they could be conquered by the powers that be. So instead of divide and conquer, I think we should connect and heal. That's the adagium of this. Connect ourselves and heal ourselves. So this is the right side of the brain, and this is the left side of the brain. This is the ego. The power at personal level is the ego. We all have our own ego system. And our ego system is on top of the left brain. So the left brain is guided by the ego. And that's why our ego is very sensitive to logic, to arguments, because it's all left brain stuff. The ego is not really interested in all the holistic stories. I think, oh, that's a bunch of crap. It's nonsense. Ego doesn't care. But the higher level than the ego, and that's our intuition. And our intuition is more related to level number 5. It's on top, you could say, on our right hemisphere. So our intuition is much more connected to the holistic ideas of the right side of the brain. And of course, on top of both, we find our true being. To me, this is earth, means perceiving. This is fire, means doing. This is water, means feeling. This is air, means thinking. And the circle, to me, means being. So when we reach this high level of consciousness, number 9, then we reach the level of wholeness being, of being whole, being the whole of everything. So that's in a nutshell the story about the Mayan calendars, because this calendar, calendar number 6, started this year, 2114 for our current era, and ended also in 2012 according to me. That calendar is the long count calendar. It's 13 times 140 days. But these calendars are also there. So it's not one calendar system, there are in fact 9 calendar systems, all related to each other. And on top of that, the Mayans also had the Tzolk'in. It's also a calendar system with 13. And also the number 20 is very important, because the acceleration of time here is every times 20. So this goes 20 times faster than this one. This one goes 20 times faster than that one. So here we talk about 1.26 billion years, but here it's only 18 days. And 18 days, what I like very much, is 432 hours. And to me the number 432 is very special. When you think of 432 hertz, the natural frequency, vibration for the tone A or La. And there's much more to say about this, but I think we first have a small break and then we can discuss all this. Thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you.
Goed voorstel. Het hier pas.